On the night of the 26th of December, 1898, three young people climbed into a horse-drawn sulky on a farm outside Gatton, Queensland, and rode toward the promise of a Christmas dance. By the following morning, all three of them, Michael, Norah, and Ellen Murphy, lay dead in a remote paddock, their bodies placed side by side with a stillness that looked almost deliberate. The dance they had traveled to attend had been cancelled before they even arrived, which means that somewhere on the road, home in the dark, something found them. More than 120 years have passed. The crime scene was trampled beyond recovery within hours of the discovery, and not one person has ever been charged. The Gatton murders remain one of the most haunting unsolved cases in Australian history, a crime that has outlasted every detective, every witness, and every theory brought against it. We are going to lay every piece of evidence on the board: the timeline, the physical clues, the suspects, the contradictions, and we are going to walk through it together. By the time we are done, you will know everything the investigators knew, and we invite you to weigh it, question it, and decide for yourself what you think happened on that road in 1898. Chapter 1. The Paddock at Dawn. Boxing Day, 1898. A search party moving through Queensland scrubland stumbles into Moran's paddock just after dawn. One of them raises a hand and the group stops. Three bodies lie side by side in the dry grass, arranged with terrible neatness. Their feet point west, all three precisely aligned. Nearby, the sulky horse lies dead, shot once. The sulky itself sits undisturbed, harness still buckled. Nothing appears ransacked. No signs of robbery, no scatter of belongings. The scene is so ordered, it barely resembles violence at all. Consider what you are looking at. Three bodies arranged, a horse deliberately killed, and nothing taken. What does that arrangement tell us about the person who left it? About their state of mind, or their purpose? The searchers do not yet know the names of the dead, or why, on a Christmas night, these three people were on this road at all. Let's open the board. The location: Gatton, Queensland, Australia, and Michael Murphy, the victim, brother. Chapter 2. The Murphy Siblings. Queensland, Australia, December 26th, 1898. The Murphy family were among the most respected in the Gatton district. Michael Murphy was 29, steady, dependable, the eldest son. His sister Norah was 27, known across the district for her quiet warmth. Ellen, the youngest at 18, rarely missed a chance to dance. That Boxing Day evening, the three of them set out together in good spirits. They were headed for a dance at the Gatton Divisional Board Hall. They dressed carefully. This was a social occasion, and they took it seriously. Neighbours would later recall that the siblings seemed happy, looking forward to the night. But the dance had been cancelled, called off sometime before that evening. No one had thought to send word to the Murphy farm. Think about that for a moment. Three people setting out into the dark toward a destination that no longer existed. On the board so far, Michael Murphy, the victim, brother. Now we pin up Norah and Ellen Murphy, the victims, sisters. Chapter 3. The Night They Vanished. Boxing Day, 1898, and the Queensland summer heat had barely softened by evening. Sometime after 6 o'clock, the Murphy siblings climbed into their sulky and left the family farm outside Gatton. They were headed to a dance in town, a journey their family expected to take no more than an hour. A neighbor on the Gatton Road later recalled seeing the sulky pass, moving steadily, nothing wrong. That sighting placed the Murphys on the main road at roughly 6:30, but they never reached the dance hall, and no one in town saw them arrive. Somewhere along that road, within a narrow window of perhaps 30 minutes, they turned off. The track leading into Moran's paddock was rough, unlit, and a full mile from their intended route. Not a single witness came forward to say they saw that turn being made. Think carefully about what that silence means. 3 people and a horse left a public road, and no one saw a thing. Does it mean the road was empty? Or that whoever guided them off it knew exactly when it would be? Tomorrow, as dawn broke over Moran's paddock, a stranger's horse would lead someone to an answer no one was ready for. On the board so far, Norah and Ellen Murphy, the victims, sisters. Now we pin up unknown, the unidentified perpetrator. Chapter 4. A crime scene already lost. It was the morning of Boxing Day, 1898. Word of the discovery spread through Gatton Township within the hour. Before any constable had been summoned, neighbours were already moving toward the paddock. Estimates would later suggest that hundreds of people entered the scene that morning. They walked, clustered, and stood in the very ground that held every physical trace of what had happened. The first constable to arrive, William Doyle, reached the paddock hours after the discovery. He found a scene already irreparably disturbed. The investigation that followed was, by any measure, a catastrophic failure of method. No photographs were taken of the scene before the crowd arrived. No cordon was established, no log of who had entered or left. Think about what that means for a moment. Whatever the killer left behind, whatever path they took out of that paddock, it was being walked into the dirt by the time anyone with authority arrived. And yet, one detail survived the chaos, one object found at the margin of the scene that no one could quite explain. On the board so far, unknown, the unidentified perpetrator. Now we pin up 26 Dec, 1898. 3 siblings leave for Gatton dance. Chapter 5. The Arrangement. Among everything stolen from that paddock in December 1898, one detail refused to be explained away. The 3 bodies of Michael, Norah, and Ellen Murphy had not been left where they fell. They had been laid out with deliberate care. Their feet were pointing west, all 3, aligned in the same direction uniformly, as though placement had been the point. This was not the chaos of sudden violence. Someone had taken time, perhaps significant time, after the killings. The investigating constables had never encountered a rural crime scene arranged this way. Ritual, respect, obsession, or something else entirely. No one agreed on what it meant. Stop here with me for a moment and pin this to your case board. What kind of person, after unimaginable violence, stops and arranges? Was this control? A mind that needed order even in catastrophe? Or was the arrangement itself a message? And if so, for whom? On the board so far, 26 Dec, 1898. 3 siblings leave for Gatton dance. Now we pin up 26 Dec, 1898. Dance cancelled. Siblings turn for home. Chapter 6. Clues that don't add up. What the chaos left behind was almost nothing, and yet not quite nothing. Investigators recovered a single bullet from the scene at Moran's paddock on the morning of 27th December 1898. One bullet, and the wound patterns told investigators something blunt had also been used, something heavy. That bludgeoning weapon was never recovered. The weapon's absence is not a small detail. It means someone carried it away from the paddock. Near the bodies, a boot print was found. Its size and tread unlike those of any of the 3 Murphy siblings. Think about what that print means for the timeline. And consider whose boot made it, and when did it arrive? The paddock sat within clear earshot of the Brisbane Valley road, a road that carried traffic that night. Not one person passing that road reported hearing a scream, a shot, or any sound of struggle. That silence is one of the most disturbing facts in the entire case. 3 victims, 1 bullet, an unrecovered weapon, a stranger's boot print, and perfect silence. The arithmetic of this crime does not resolve into one person working alone. Every serious investigator since 1898 has arrived at the same threshold question, and the answer, even now, remains open. On the board so far, 26 Dec, 1898. Dance cancelled. Siblings turn for home. Now we pin up 27 Dec, 1898. 3 bodies found in Moran's paddock. Chapter 7. The suspects emerge. In the weeks after the murders, investigators began hearing names. The first profile, a local man known to the district whose behavior shifted noticeably in the days after Christmas 1898. Neighbours recalled he avoided certain roads and spoke in clipped, guarded answers when questioned. But his alibi, thin as it was, held under repeated scrutiny. The second profile, a drifter passing through the Gatton district around that same long weekend. A storekeeper placed him near the road to Moran's paddock on the evening of Boxing Day. Think about that placing for a moment. The paddock, that evening, that hour. A second witness, however, swore the same drifter was 30 miles away before sundown. A third witness, more troubling still, described someone else entirely. A man on horseback watching the road. Investigators could not reconcile these accounts. The timings refused to align. Every lead, pressed hard enough, eventually folded back on itself and disappeared. And yet, one detail, a detail no suspect could explain away, was still waiting in the evidence. On the board so far, 27 Dec, 1898. 3 bodies found in Moran's paddock. Now we pin up 27 Dec, 1898. Scene trampled. Investigation badly bungled. Chapter 8. The Official Inquiry. By February 1899, Queensland's government had seen enough public outrage to order a formal royal commission. Investigators were called to account for decisions made in those first critical hours at the paddock. The commission heard that the scene had been examined without proper method. Witnesses moved, evidence disturbed. A constable's notebook, its pages thin and worn, was produced as evidence of how little had actually been recorded. Senior officers admitted under oath that the early response had been badly mismanaged. The commission's formal findings landed with quiet, devastating weight. The official conclusion was that the mishandled scene had almost certainly made the case unsolvable. Think carefully about what that admission means. Evidence gone. The critical window closed. Whoever was responsible still walking free. No arrest was ever made. Not then, not after. The investigation continued in name only, growing quieter with each passing year. Sometime in the early 20th century, the Gatton murders were quietly shelved. The case was never officially closed, and that distinction, it turns out, matters more than it first appears. On the board so far, 27 Dec 1898, scene trampled, investigation badly bungled. Now we pin up a key clue. Bodies arranged side by side. Chapter 9. A Century of Theories. For 125 years, this case has refused to close. The first theory, a lone predator, unknown to the family, emerged within days of the discovery. It explains the speed and violence of the attack, but stumbles on one awkward fact. 3 victims, one night. No alarm raised. The second theory, multiple perpetrators acting together, accounts for the silence, but demands a conspiracy that left no whisper behind. A third, more troubling theory has shadowed the case since the earliest inquiries. Someone known to the Murphy siblings was there that night. Familiarity would explain why the 3 left the dance willingly, and why the horse and buggy were found undisturbed. Yet no witness ever placed a known person with the Murphys after they left the hall. Criminologists today note that each theory carries the case so far, and then the evidence simply runs out. Lay the evidence board before you now. 3 victims, a remote paddock, a compressed timeline, and a scene that was disturbed before police arrived. Consider what you know and ask yourself, which theory fits the silence? Every theory, lone predator, conspiracy, trusted acquaintance, collapses against the same immovable question: why arrange the bodies? No motive yet proposed. Rage, concealment, ritual fully accounts for the deliberate, careful arrangement found at dawn. In the next chapter, we hand you every piece of evidence collected and ask, what does the arrangement tell us about the person who made it? On the board so far, a key clue: bodies arranged side by side. Now we pin up a key clue: sulky horse shot dead nearby. Chapter 10. The board is yours now. Boxing Day, 1898. 3 siblings rode out from Gatton and never came home. They were found arranged in a paddock with a deliberateness that investigators could not explain. The crime scene had already been disturbed before any constable recorded a single measurement. A single horse was found tied nearby, calm as though it had been waiting. No weapon was ever recovered from the paddock or its surroundings. A man reported hearing a gunshot that evening, but the time he gave sat uneasily with the known movements of the siblings. Here is where I want you to pause with me, because the timeline simply does not close. What does it mean that the arrangement of the bodies required time and stillness and confidence? Multiple suspects were named across the inquiry. None was ever charged. The case remains officially open, one of the oldest unsolved homicides in Australian history. Every clue on this board now belongs to you. Share your theory of what happened that night and who could be responsible given the evidence. And if one new detail, one we have not yet shown you, changes everything, stay with us. On the board so far, a key clue: sulky horse shot dead nearby. Now we pin up a key clue: crime scene fatally contaminated.